Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to another video. Today we are doing our first renovation of the Disney Save. So this is an apartment reno. I have not done one up until this point because we haven't done a world that included apartments. And as many of you probably know, Evergreen Harbor has 4 apartments, which was really exciting when we got them, but definitely a little bit worrying for me as far as doing the Disney Save. Trying to figure out how to incorporate apartments is always an interesting idea, and one of the reasons why I think a lot of you have questioned what I'm planning on doing with San Myshuno because it is so heavy in the apartments department, and I'm not planning on talking about that too much in today's video. Just know that I am working out some plans. I've got it going. I'm thinking about what I could possibly do. However, that is obviously for a later time and date. I don't actually even know when I'm going to start San Myshuno. The more important issue right away was to do these apartment complexes. And the idea for this actually came pretty quickly when I decided that I was going to add Toy Story to this world. So I kind of figured that a lot of you would probably want the toys themselves to be included in the save file. And I totally agree. I think making them townies might have been like the easy way to go about it, or making them, I don't know, maybe making them as like different characters that were friends with Andy is probably another avenue. However, I thought that I just love so many of the Toy Story characters. Toy Story, as a lot of you know, is like one of my favorites. So I felt like I really had to add them. I had to have Woody, Buzz, I had to have a lot of those main characters. So I saw this apartment. It's the one that's in the upper left-hand side of the map, the one that's closer to Andy's house and Sid's house in that like little neighborhood. And I thought it would be a great idea to rename the apartment complex to Andy's Toy Box. I don't remember what this is actually called other than my renaming of it, but we are going to be referring to this apartment complex as Andy's Toy Box. And that means that we're going to have to fill it with some various toys characters. So this is also kind of a fan request. I had one of my Disney royalty patrons help me pick out which characters were going to go into the apartments. It is a little bit limited as far as like how many I can do. This isn't like your full-blown house where I can really make like 4 or 5 bedrooms and do it any way that I want to. I have to make this given space already work. So it does limit how many characters you can include, and I was thinking for this first apartment I would really limit it to 2. And it's pretty obvious for the first one that we would do Woody and Buzz. That just seems super straightforward. But for some of the other ones, I was kind of picking characters here and there, trying to decide, you know, where would some of these maybe work a little bit better, maybe a different world. And my patron actually helped me to plan everything out and gave me some really, really great ideas for this apartment that I don't think I would have come up with otherwise. So that will be in future videos as far as like the other apartment renovations. In fact, after this video, I will be putting up the creative-sim of Woody and Buzz, and then we will do the other apartment renovation for some more Toy Story characters. And those are going to be Toy Story 1 characters. I have a plan for other Toy Story characters. Toy Story 2 is going somewhere else, and 3 and 4 going somewhere else as well. So this is going to be basically 2 back-to-back little sets of residentials from Toy Story 1. And I think that might be all for the first Toy Story movie in Evergreen Harbor. I could be completely wrong on that. I have to recheck my map, but off the top of my head, I believe that is everything. So yeah, today's apartment is a renovation for Woody and Buzz to live here. So my patron had this brilliant idea, and again, like I cannot commend them enough because I just wouldn't have come up with this. Obviously, it makes a lot of sense to do a 2-bedroom apartment, and then we'll have 1 room that's for Woody, 1 room that's for Buzz, and they'll be themed very much after their characters. So Woody's room, very Western, a lot of stuff from Get Famous. And then we'd have Buzz's room, maybe a lot of stuff from Get to Work, some of the like hidden items of the game, a lot of stuff from like Aliens. We do it a little bit space themed. But I was really torn about how to do the common areas of the home. And they had suggested that we make it look like or use a similar color scheme and similar idea to Andy's actual toy box. That is like literally so brilliant. I was so excited when they came up with that because I was like, wow, that's the perfect solution, and to tie everything together and make it fully Disney themed, it's going to be the best way to go. So Andy's Toy Box itself is one of those covered caravans. maybe like a horse-drawn carriage type of situation, but one of the more old school, like Western ones. And if you haven't seen it in a long time, I'll actually put up an image on the screen so you guys can see what his original toy box looks like, so you can get an idea of what I'm going for as far as like the general layout and color scheming of the common area, which is what we are currently working on with this big kitchen. And then we have like the living room, bathroom, and kind of an office area that ended up turning into a bar at the last second. For that little caravan, it had color scheming of like tans, browns, some red, a little bit of green, and a little bit of blue. Lots to work with there, but I feel like it obviously has this old school handmade feel and look to it, and I wanted to represent that as well, and maybe not keep it the most modern, but still modern enough to be a part of Toy Story. So a little bit retro, kind of like 90s, but at the same time, we're not shying away from some of the modern furniture, especially when it comes to Buzz and him being like a space character. It could obviously go very futuristic very quickly. But the common area of the home, like I said, is very much just based after the toy box. And yes, the caravan is probably more Western themed, but I knew I was going to do really heavy Western theming in Woody's room itself. So I didn't want it to be like too heavy Western theming for the common area of the home, because that doesn't really make sense. We want it to be neutral enough for Woody and Buzz, but at the same time, we want the Western theming to sort of kind of be there. So in my head, I think I was thinking like Arizona, with a lot of the colors and the general like scheming that I did for the common area. And I will say, when it comes to apartments, I have this issue that I always want to make them open concept. So you can see me in the video quite a few times trying to section this off, because I was actively trying to push against the idea of this being an open concept. It's just not the most realistic thing, and I know from apartment hunting myself that you would be very fortunate to get an open concept apartment, depending on where you live, obviously. Around where I live, it's very, very difficult, and I feel like I wanted to represent the idea that this might not be your most modern new apartment, whereas newer apartments, you might get like very clean white walls, like a deeper gray flooring, modern appliances, things like that. This is more of like your 1990s into early 2000s apartment, where people just sectioned off things a lot more than they do now. And so I wanted to break up the area quite a bit. I tried to use some walls and actually do like hallways and stuff in here, but it just feels so cramped. So I hope I found like a happy medium between open concept and your more like closed off apartment complex. It's still pretty open, and you can see in the video that the kitchen came to me really quickly. I loved the green, the parenthood stuff. It really gave me the same vibes as like Andy's toy box overall. A lot of like the same colors. But for the living room, I really just didn't know what way to take it without like completely making it all Western theming and doing like horses everywhere and some of like those landscape type of like Arizona paintings and like cactuses everywhere, which would have been a little tacky. So we didn't go that direction. I ended up just keeping it pretty simple. Eco Lifestyle came in really clutch for this speed build a lot. Like, I did not expect that going in. I believe the flooring, the couches, the table, and the chairs are all Eco Lifestyle. And then we've got a lot of parenthood in here, some nifty knitting, most definitely. And a lot of people have said already that nifty knitting and parenthood feel very similar as far as like their colors go. So I agree. I feel like they fit really well together, and I end up using them pretty interchangeably. It does feel very much like an extension of the parenthood pack. So a little bit more of a neutral living room and a little bit more of a clustered kitchen. I was trying to think of like what type of characters Woody and Buzz would be. They're so opposite of one another. They're both like, they have like this superiority type of thing where Buzz is kind of a space ranger, like a space police officer, and then Woody is a sheriff. So they both have like that authority type of complex, which I think is what makes their personalities clash, but they're also very opposite in their theming, and I didn't know necessarily going into it how I was going to use the space to the best of both of their like interests. And I think in my head I also was really thinking that they were more like, you know, your typical roommates, two guys that are rooming together. They would maybe have like a more cluttered home. They would have not the most well thought out furniture planning. Obviously, that's very, very stereotypical, and that could totally not be the case all of the time. But I find that when you go and you get like two boys in an apartment complex together, maybe they don't care about their furniture all matching one another as much as possible. However, for my design taste, we still have to keep it somewhat cohesive. So I made little decisions here and there to do like random bits of furniture, like the mismatched colored chairs and some more like handcrafted, hand-painted type of stuff. And maybe some stuff that, or clutter items that feel a little bit random. But I hope overall it still feels very cohesive. Now the door situation, I knew right away I wanted to have two very distinct doors. One that looks very futuristic and makes it look like it's going to go straight into something for Buzz. And one that is more your rustic, handmade, Western type of door. So they each have their own room. It's very clear whose is whose. And this was really the part that I was most excited for when it came to decorating. I was picturing this in my head long before even doing like the common area, and I think initially doing Evergreen Harper, I really wanted to go in right away and just do this apartment complex. Like this was something I was so excited about the idea of, but I again didn't really know what to do with the common area, so I did hold back a little bit, and I'm really glad that I did because I think it gave me some time to think about how I wanted this entire thing to play out. So currently we are working with Buzz's bedroom. Buzz's room is going to go through some transitions in this video. Again, I feel like I was not exactly sure what I wanted. I kind of wanted like this bros, frat housey, cluttered, messy kind of house. But then I was also thinking about Buzz and him being a space ranger and probably a graduate of Star Command Academy, and thinking about what type of a room he would keep. So ultimately, I decided to go like futuristic minimalism. But that's definitely not where I started. So originally I was cluttering the place up. I had lots of little alien creatures, lots of those like debug items from the scientist career. And it felt way too messy, way too colorful. Maybe like it wasn't really meant for Buzz, but more for like any general futuristic type of character. And obviously, I want you to look at the room and not even have me tell you who it's for, and you would probably be able to make a really good educated guess on which Disney character the room was designed for. So I decided to scale a lot of it back and go again for like this minimalistic type of look, but I wanted to keep his color scheming in there pretty heavily, and that can get kind of tacky, again, really quickly, with the bright lime green and like the bright purple. It can get overwhelming, definitely, and it would start to look like a neon cluttered kind of mess, which is where it was headed, and I'm glad I scaled it down quite a bit. Even just some of the stuff that you guys are seeing right now, I ended up getting rid of it. It just was way too much, and I think maybe this look would fit better for a different character. I can almost see, like, if I did Baymax, and Baymax got a room, he might have, like, more of a cluttered, kind of colorful room, because that's more of his personality, but not for Buzz. He seems more polished, straightforward, and I was also picturing what would the inside of like a Star Command spaceship look like? What do the rooms inside the space station look like? And what would like that look like if he was maybe at the Star Command Academy and they have dormitories, that kind of thing? Like, what would those rooms look like? I think I managed to figure out exactly what I wanted. We're using a huge amount of different packs for this room. This is literally everything from Get to Work to Get Famous to Eco Lifestyle, fitness stuff, everything. Literally everything. I'm actually really grateful for Get Famous. Get Famous has become one of the big packs as far as me doing the Disney save. It has been so important to a lot of like my character designs, and in general when I'm planning future characters, there's costumes that come with that pack that just make so much sense for future characters, and I would be so torn about what to do with like character design later on if we didn't have that pack. Obviously, I'm super hoping that we get like a dedicated space pack or a dedicated future type of pack. I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, but that would definitely be super helpful for me. But more than anything, I would really love a medieval pack or like your dedicated knights, princesses, dragons, prince pack. Anything in that realm would be super helpful. And I try to picture a lot of times what would the Disney save look like if I had tried to do it when I originally thought of it. This was an idea I came up with quite a few years ago, and I'm so glad I waited for more packs to come out. And even now when we get some of these newer packs, I kind of look at the catalog and I'm like, that's really not going to be helpful for me. And then I go into game and I started designing a room, and I realized that it is. It's so helpful, the amount of stuff that we have in Build and Buy. I will say, if you're going to criticize The Sims about stuff, I totally am, like, there with you. I am, like, a huge critic of The Sims 4, especially if you follow me on Twitter. I'm always talking about something. However, when it comes to the Build and Buy catalog, I am, like, totally set for the majority of this Disney save. We're going to have some issues here and there. And even just for doing Buzz's room, when it came to doing stuff that you would typically find in a bedroom, like a dresser or a closet, but maybe you want a more futuristic, spacey kind of look, that becomes a challenge. But again, I'm able to piece stuff together and really make something that looks kind of interesting, which is what you're seeing on screen currently. And one of my favorite parts of Buzz's room was this idea that he had like a futuristic kind of closet. So that's actually 2 dressers, one that is, I think, the end table, and then the full dresser across. And then those bar pieces that they're like awnings for inside of a space station, and they're made for the Get Famous sets if you're doing like the movie sets and stuff. But I end up using them in a lot of futuristic builds, and even originally I had some more stuff in here that really was from that pack, and I always go to whenever I'm doing something space or future, but it didn't really work. But I was able to keep a couple of things, and one of them was these awnings that happened to come in like that same exact Buzz Lightyear purple. More green would have been super great, and I actually, I feel like I worked in the green in different packs in different ways, but I knew I wanted to have your typical like dresser bed, but maybe do it in a more stylized way. So that ended up working out super well. I did have this area at the end of the bed, and it was supposed to be your computer. That computer is called the command center, which obviously seems really natural to use in here. And I had some more of those Get Famous pieces put over the top of it. It was just way too cluttered. It doesn't look good. It's kind of leaning over the top of the bed, and it just makes that end of the room look really chunky compared to everything else. So I do end up removing quite a bit of that, and I'm so glad that I did. Again, that's an idea that I think could get used again later, and you'll definitely see me use it at some point later on. But I was thinking about Buzz having a computer in his room and how that makes so much sense, especially because a lot of the characters in the Disney save so far have not really gotten anything that's super technological. This is my opportunity to definitely use some of the more modern stuff and use these random little gadgets like the command center, but I was overdoing it and definitely overthinking it, so ended up streamlining it a little bit and minimalizing that. It's also currently being used as a blocker to block a chunk of something that's coming out of Woody's room that you can see here and there. That's another one of the set pieces from Get Famous. I wanted to use like the Western backdrop and use it as a piece to make Woody's bed. I ended up going with something different, but originally I was trying to block the pieces that were coming into Buzz's room because it's too big to actually put in Woody's room, so it was kind of creeping into Buzz's room, and I was trying to hide like the edges of it, and it didn't really work, but it doesn't matter. We ended up getting rid of it and using something completely different, like I said. The other really big struggle with this room, I really wanted to use these neon tiles from the Spa Day pack. They are like glowing wall and floor tiles that come in so many colors. I absolutely love them. They're like one of my favorite things to use. In fact, a lot of my builds so far, I tend to use them in pools. If you've never seen me do this, it might be in like a lot of footage that I cut out most of the time, but if I'm trying to get like a really vibrant, tropical looking pond or a pool and really make it look like a saturated kind of blue, I'll use these as the wall tiles on the inside. I love them. They're like one of my favorite things to use in game, and I haven't really had an opportunity to use them because a lot of the stuff so far has been so like 1920s, and also just like there's no place for it. Like some of your more neon and colorful types of Disney builds that we're going to do later on, I'm thinking like Wreck-It Ralph and arcade possibly, like that kind of stuff, you're really not going to see for a little while. So I haven't been able to touch some of my favorite items in the game, and I was really trying to work them into this room in so many different fashions. I had like different tiles going on. Ultimately, I ended up just pulling up a picture of Buzz and looking at him. He's very green on the top, and then he has like a purple stripe underneath that kind of slants down around his body. And I ended up mimicking the floor after the shape of like his Star Command spacesuit, which I think is a really cool touch. And at the end of the bed, down underneath the computer, I did do 3 carpets there. So what you're currently seeing, they're purple, green, and blue, and that was obviously to keep it super cohesive. But I did decide to change them so that they were the same colors as the 3 buttons that are on his uniform as well. And you'll see that pattern again right underneath his dresser, underneath the clothes. Those 3 lights are craftable items from Eco Lifestyle, I believe. I can only find them in the debug category, and I use them in the same exact colors as like the 3 buttons that you would see on his uniform. So trying to tie all of it in, you know, like a little bit of his uniform, some of his personality, some of maybe his future backstory for the Creative Sim video, trying to think about like what kind of a character he would be as well. And I hope you guys like it. I think that it came out really nice. I'm like super excited about Buzz's room. And I always say this when like a new speed build comes out, but it's just one of those times where I really feel like I would enjoy playing with this household. And I'm excited to test Evergreen Harbor and really give these guys a go and see how they would be. As far as like playing goes, you know, because I try to make every household feel very different from one another so you can get like all sorts of experiences across the board. And now moving on to the last part of the speed build, we have Woody's bedroom, which again was just so much easier to come up with because basically all we have to do is keep it really Western looking. And I was trying to make it feel like a tavern. So like I said, I had those pieces that come from Get Famous that are for like the backdrops of the acting career when you're doing set design. They have a lot of these really big Western backdrops, and I wanted to use one of the full set pieces and maybe scale it down and work it into the actual bed, but it didn't really fit in the shape of this room, and I was having such a hard time with it, so I ended up just kind of creating it with a similar tiling wall, similar columns, similar roofing structure over the bed to give it the same feel, but maybe we're not exactly using like that piece. And then the rest of it just comes pretty natural. This is a lot of Get Famous, a lot of base game. I think that bed is from Cats and Dogs, and I was able to find the awesome, like literally so perfect Western painting that comes from Strangerville and size that up to use as like a faux headboard on the back of the bed. The other really cool thing that I thought was funny is Woody wears like a white and black speckled kind of cow print vest, and we have a rug that looks very similar to that, so I put that right underneath his bed. Just again, very similar to Buzz, trying to bring in like their literal designs and what they look like as characters. Similar coloring. He wears like plaid yellow, so bringing the plaid yellow into the room, yellow in general, and then just thinking about his character and what would he actually like, and I think that he would just love this room. Like he would literally be so happy to read a book by the fire and just chill and enjoy his evening in like his faux little tavern room. Again, very themed and very like not your standard type of bedroom, but I think that's what makes it so unique, because we're going to have so many houses in the save file and residentials that really just feel like your everyday natural house, which is very much what Andy's house actually feels like. So it's nice to have something that's maybe a little bit different and more themed per like the character that goes in there. That is pretty much going to be it for today's video. Let me know what you guys thought of these apartments in the comments down below. Stay tuned for the Woody and Buzz Creative Sim, and we're going to do another apartment reno and another set of characters from Toy Story, so stay tuned to see who made it into apartment number 2. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you would like to support the Disney Save on Patreon, you can do so by clicking the link in the description box down below, as well as the link at the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Hit that little bell icon below to turn on post notifications so you can get updated every single time I post, and I will talk to you all in the next one.